if you can develop a passion and a real understanding for why you're doing what you're doing,
Mhm.
and really your gifts and your skill sets that I believe God's uniquely qualified you and given you, and you start to enjoy these things and you enjoy the suffering and training, you
Mhm.
enjoy the process of becoming better. Man, I don't think anybody can stop you.
Shift happens, opportunities change, and success is a choice. So when shift happens, it is our choice. Either we let shift happen or we can make shift happen. Hey, everybody, welcome to Talking Shift. And I'm really excited about our conversation today. I've been working really hard to get this gentleman on the pod. I feel very honored and very privileged to welcome my friend, my brother, my fellow leader in the mortgage business. And this is going to be a really cool conversation as we welcome Brian Covey on this episode, because Brian was a professional soccer player, and how apropos given the World Cup and everything going on right now. And there's so much to learn, and I love when I get the chance to interview and work with professional athletes. So we're going to dive into this conversation about your time, as a D1 and a professional, athlete, and being a professional business athlete. Brian's a leader in the mortgage business. He's a leader in growth, building a brand, working with originators and leaders and others to build their business. And so much that Brian and I share in our leadership philosophies. And Brian, what I pick up quite often is, it's finding the signal amongst the noise. In our business, our industry, our world is very noisy right now. And so when we find those signals to help us create that alignment, it's so important in what we do. And so I think this conversation is gonna be a magnet for a lot of our compasses, as we talk through here, but hopefully to extend beyond this, especially with building our brand, how we navigate, the shifting business, if you will. So, and I'm going to tell a little story about, and Brian, I don't know if you remember this, but of how we met. But before we go there, I want to welcome you to the episode. Thank you for joining us, and let's have at it. Welcome, Brian.
Dude, I'm so excited, man. And I know you were very flexible and adjusted with me as schedule's been crazy, traveling with family, World Cup's going on, teams growing, all the things in life in the summer. So couldn't be more happy, man. This World Cup has already kicked off. It is, in my opinion, it's headed towards one of the best we've ever seen. So I can't wait.
And 100%, right? And it's really awesome seeing the U.S. team the way they are. And it reminds me, and I know they've made these comparisons to the Miracle on Ice. It's like the miracle on the field. And you're way more, being with your background, I would love to hear your perspective of how they assembled this team. And I'm going to hold back on my opinion for a second, but what I've learned, but how they put this team together. And what insights, if I can ask that, are you drawing for how they assembled this team and why that matters?
I'll tell you, the one thing that I've picked up on that most people will miss is at that level, it's more than just talent. Let's be real. Like I've listened to Punch, like the coach who's come in, been there for the past couple of years. He coached at Tottenham, well renowned Argentinian coach. And if you listen to him, what people didn't believe is most people approach this and life and all these things is they want the most talented player. And while that's good at some point, if you don't have team chemistry, if you don't have people in the right roles, you don't have people in a World Cup, you got to have people that can go if someone gets injured. Like we had Pulisic, arguably our best player ever in the U.S., definitely on this team with the highest accolades, and gets injured from a calf injury, right? And so you got to have somebody that's next up. And so I look at the team, what they assembled is phenomenal from the chemistry you see. What I've noticed is they fight for each other more than any team I've seen in years. And so you could argue and say, yes, some of those talented playing in all these different leagues across the world, all that looks good. But when you get on the field and there's 11 players against 11 players, you better know that your brother has your back. You better know that that person's going to do the extra. You've got to know that person's put in the work to be there. And you got to know they're there for the right reasons and they're coachable. And so that's what I believe the coach brought in. And you just watch that. You look at the people he's playing. You look at the people even on the bench that he's been working with to be there. So I'm excited to see what this group does because there's going to come a point where we're not going to be the most talented players in certain positions on the field. And what's going to help us, I believe, is this grit, this tenacity, this ability and belief that this team's just willing to fight and go to battle for each other. And there is something to be said for that because you know this, upsets happen all the time. And the best team from a talent standpoint does not always win. And all you need, one game, you get that one play. And in our last two games, without going into too much of it, our first goals were own goals. So the other team, we put a ball in a dangerous spot, and the other team was just in a bad spot and they happened to knock it in for us. And I think that almost is like, that sums up a little bit of this team is just gritty. They're just willing to do things. They're willing to fight and put the other team in a dangerous spot. So if they continue that and we leverage some of our younger legs, some of the athleticism, I do think we're going to compete. It's going to be interesting to see how far we're able to go with it. And look, man, I'm rooting for the U.S., right?
I
Former
mean,
player myself, and it's awesome.
well, and how can you not? And the reason why I asked this too, again, because of your background, but like the parallel, and this is what I just love about these conversations, because the parallel from on the field to, say, off the field or into business. But like you said, I mean, the way and what I read and what I was hearing about, how this coach assembled this team, right? It wasn't just about talent; it was about chemistry. It's about the right people in the right position that can play together as a team, not necessarily the best talent. Just let me just take our top 10, right? And you said something there that was really, really, I think, insightful, which is, and they're coachable. And that's where I love this parallel into the Miracle of Ice, and I think it was the 1980 hockey team when to win the gold. And so that's what's so exciting about this year in particular. But I mean, we love every World Cup year. I love your parallel into that, and I think that's exciting. So, continuing that part of the conversation, as a D1 athlete and as a professional soccer player yourself, and you were a goalkeeper, right?
Was.
Yeah.
Still am.
What?
Forever will be.
And still am, and you're still playing in an adult league, and and still roughing it up out there and getting after it. But like, what did you learn? I mean, what are the lessons that you took from your time as a goalkeeper, as a professional athlete? I mean, how has that translated into now how you're building your business, into your leadership, how you coach and manage teams as well? I'm always fascinated by those parallels.
So I've been asked this a few times, and I'll tell you, like, I always reflect back, because it takes me back, even Father's Day this past weekend, and my dad was sharing one of the Father's Day. We were in Dallas, and I was training, so I was part of the U.S. national team and Olympic team for years. Never made the final team to get to go play in CONCACAF or any of the Olympics or any of that, but I was always part of the pool, in and out. And he was reminding me of, hey, we were in Dallas when you were at the U20 national team training, and it was super hot, and he was just telling me about that, and I'll never forget, we'll go into that. And what I realized is talent will get you into these pools, right? Like your athleticism, your ability to play, you're the best kid in your town, your city, maybe the best kid in your state. But when you get in this room and there's 35 to 40 other athletes like you, and some are a little bit older, some are younger. I think at the time I was 17. And so there's people that are older than me. They could be 18 or 19 on the U20. And there's people that are younger, and they're just all out there competing for spots. What you'll start to realize is this whole attitude and effort. We tell our kids that, and you'll hear that from coaches. It matters. And I think about this too in business. The person with the best attitude, and we know this in business today. I could ask you, think of someone right now that comes into the office and just has a bad attitude. Like, there's always complaining about something, right? Like, it's not warm enough. It's not cold enough. The loans aren't going fast enough. I don't have enough business. The rates aren't this. The rates aren't that. The programs, like my tech, my blah, 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 whatever. They always got something to complain about. That's what you think about somebody that comes in the office and they're always like, hey man, we're going to figure this out. It's a great day. Hey, I got a referral this morning. Hey, I'm working on this. This is something I'm trying. And I think about this contrast between the two, because you can think of one in each camp right now. And I would bet money to say the second one with the positive attitude, the one that's resourceful, they're seeing success today. And the same was true when I went on the field back then. Is the person that showed up, yeah, it's hot. Yeah, we're tired. Yeah, it's competitive. Yeah, the coaches are stressing us out. Yeah, they're making us do fitness in between the sessions. Yeah, it's long days. You're away from home for a couple weeks at a time. Okay, but what a privilege it is to be in that situation. And so I think about that attitude and effort. The other part, if you think about this too, within that story, is the right environment can change everything for you. I remember leaving there, Craig, and the first time I got invited, I was 14 or 15 years old, and I got selected to go train with the U17 national team. And I remember at camp and pool and all that, I'm like, holy crap, there's this whole new level. Like, Because when you're in your small world, in my city in Memphis, there were some great players. There were a handful of guys went on to play in the national team and professionally and all that. But you get there and it's a whole new world. And you start to realize the right environment, the right training, being around people that are better than you at something, being around the best coaches brought out the best in you. And so that parallel for me today is I'm always looking for, as I'm attracting, recruiting people to our team, or who I spend my time with. I am hyper selective now. Where I wish I would have been sooner in my career is I'm just not going to deal with any of the BS. It's like I want people on my team and to be around people that are going places, that are self-motivated, they're driven, they're self-developing themselves, they're coachable, all of that. And so I'd say second one is this environment. And the last one, and as I look back, this was something that I learned is find something you really enjoy doing. Too many people in the mortgage industry right now, if they're being real and you're listening to this now, you don't enjoy what you're doing. You've lost the reason why you even started. You don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. And if you're chasing money, we all know like that's going to crash and burn at some point. In the highs and lows of the business, you're going to burn out. And people know when you don't enjoy it. And I remember thinking back, and I was sharing this with our 10-year-old the other day, because he loves to train. I mean, Craig, like he's one of those kids, like he just loves to train. And I'm like, that's not necessarily teachable. I don't believe.
No.
I loved to train. And my parents would tell me stories of I would go to the after school and then I would go train with one team and stay with another team. And both my parents worked jobs. So I would end up riding with a coach, or my older brother would take me somewhere. And I could sometimes on any given night be training 3 times in a row, right? From 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock. I'm just out there on the field training, playing pickup games, juggling, working on things. And I share all that so you know, is like, if you can develop a passion and a real understanding for why you're doing what you're doing, mm-hmm. and really your gifts and your skill sets that I believe God's uniquely qualified you and given you, and you start to enjoy these things and you enjoy the suffering and training, you enjoy the process of becoming better. Man, I don't think anybody can stop you. And I know for me, I wasn't the tallest goalkeeper. I wasn't necessarily the fastest or most gifted. Every level would challenge me. And I look back and go, man, for all the things I didn't have, what no one could ever take away from me that I still have today is a work ethic and a drive. Still, when I compete in the gym, I mean, you see my videos and I post them, not even for me, but just to show people at my age is like, you should still go compete. It's one of my core beliefs of you should never stop competing. You should always be competing with who you were and who you could be and close the gap. And in business today, I believe if more people competed each day and closed that gap of who they were and where they want to go, they'd actually find more fulfillment. There's more fun in it. And I'm not saying you're going to have losses and setbacks, and that is what it is. Like, we didn't win every game in soccer. I didn't save every shot, but I enjoyed playing, and I still do to this day. You got to enjoy competing.
And there's so many things that you said in that, you know, and thanks for sharing that, because like you said, I mean, we've got to enjoy the game, and we get so caught up in the result, right? In fact, I just did a post the other day, and maybe this is gonna be the title of my new book. And you know, and I say my new book, the book fuck your goals. And that was, you know, which is a very counterintuitive thing. And like, even as a coach, I don't get so much into goals. It does set a milestone and a vision, but here's my point. My point is, embrace the activity, embrace the money zone, embrace the game that's going to lead towards our desired results, the goals we want. And, you know, so breaking and reframing and going back to everything you're saying, right? Attitude and effort. And it's funny, I say the simple math. The simple math is this: attitude plus action equals you. A plus A equals you. That's the simple math, right? And so I love embracing the game. I love the fact that you're identifying that, and it's okay to get run through the mud, right? I mean, I remember, you know, I first read David Goggins, you know, years ago, right? And it's like when he said, and I remember, I mean, this is probably 2016. I just got into a big leadership position of myself, and all of a sudden the weight of the world is sitting on top of me. And as you know, there's never a playbook for these things. It's just like, here you go get it. And all of a sudden you get into it and you're like, holy shit, what have I got myself into? So this weight. And I remember he said, embrace the suffering. And that was so liberating, you know, and to do that. And that gave me control. That gave me ownership. And I think ownership is probably a better word than control, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so, things that I'm picking up on what you're saying, the fact that your son loves the training, right? He's embracing the suffering, embrace the game, the competitiveness, get dirty, grit. I mean, all these different things, but in alignment. And I think this is so important of what you just said, in alignment to what brings you joy, purpose, and passion. What matters to you? Making money is a result of something. So what is that something that we love to do? And I think these things, like you said, I mean, the way the mortgage business is, look, society is noisy right now. The world is noisy. Our industry is noisy. AI, social media, I mean, all these different things. So, and that's not really going away. And maybe if it wasn't this, it would be something else. And so the fundamentals of what you're talking about, whether you're on the field or off the field, and that, it's just so important. I just hope everybody's really picking this line up, that, to really connect with that purpose of what you're doing, and why. And, for you, translating into, the business that you serve now, I mean, you've had an amazing career from sales and to management to leadership, and how do you see yourself positioned with people you're bringing on board, you're leading, you're managing? How do you position yourself today in that same framework as a leader? But share with us, how you're looking at and growing others and creating that environment, like you were mentioning, that you got to experience. Now, how do you create that environment for others?
Oh, man, great question. One of my coaches, Richard Milligan, shared this whole attractive leader concept and framework years ago with me. And I remember I was struggling with recruiting, and I would hire people that weren't a great fit. I would hire just based on production because I needed the numbers and I wanted to hire the big producer, right? Because the ego was driving most of those decisions. And younger Brian just went after all those, right? Went after all the accolades, went after all the numbers, chased all those things. And I'm glad I did, because it taught me a couple things. One is, you continue to move the goalpost out. And if you don't have your values and you're centered and aligned, like you're talking about, I didn't understand that I could actually never arrive. I never got anywhere that I was satisfied or happy. And that, unfortunately, then bleeds into your family life. It bleeds into, if you're a parent, it's just all these things where you're just not satisfied. And I think there's this dichotomy that exists today where you can have not the not be satisfied, not where you want to be, but you also have to be able to recognize how far you've come. And that's really tough for a lot of people to put those together, to continue to compete, but also realize how far you've come. And today, what I've learned from all that is I'm starting with values. I'm starting with who the people are. Are they coachable? Do they have a thought about their own personal development? Because if they just want to come in here and do loans, and they want the lowest rates, the fastest turn times, the best technology, best margins, and all these things, there's going to be a point at which we can't meet that demand. Someone's going to come along and say, hey, I've got this faster, cooler car. You need to go buy this one, the new model. And they're not really anchored in what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so I've really shifted to people that are coachable, just like sports. Because what I know is over time, I'm going to continue to be able to pour into them and help them on their journey, because I've been where they are. I was the loan officer. I was the producing branch manager, area manager, regional manager, and I've been through it. And today, there's this whole belief out there, and I'm just going to squash it, is if you're not writing loans every day, you can't add value to people. Let's just call BS like straight up. Because here's what I know, is if people that are writing loans had it all figured out, they would have already solved that problem for everyone. There would already be one coaching company that goes, hey, I'm doing loans and I'm coaching people. Yeah, that hasn't solved all the world's problems. Now, I think that is a point in which people need that. And a point in your career early on, you need to understand how to structure loans, how to set up your business and your prospecting, how to actually structure your team. But as you start to grow and mature in the business, you start to realize there's more than just doing loans. There's more to this growth piece. And I know people, we know people in the industry that are writing 30, 40 million a year that are so much happier than the person that's doing over 100 million.
Sure.
And hates their life, struggling with the team, struggling with the dynamics and all these things that you think we see the production, we think it equals income and fulfillment. And I was listening to this podcast recently, as Ed Milet and Gary Vee, and they were talking about that very thing of people that are chasing this result, this goal, only to find out they gave up everything else that really mattered. And so I only share that because my coaching has shifted now to where, very much like Stephen Covey's whole person theory, is if you join my team and the people that I'm looking for, they don't want to just do loans well. We're going to do that. We're going to crush that. We're going to get great at that. We're going to have all of the standards set for that. But I also believe we can do more than that. And you can be a great mom and a dad and brother, sister, like all these things outside of it. I think you can be healthy. I actually believe our industry has struggled with this for years. And I love seeing people now like, hey, I haven't drank alcohol in this period, or I've started this walking challenge, or I'm doing this. Like, guys, we need to make sure our industry is one that's known for that. And then we're able to serve our clients better, I believe, on the other side. So I've shifted a lot of it. It's just wisdom later in the years. And I'm like, what do I wish I had? What were the great mentors and coaches teaching me years ago? And this one quote, I'll end with this, is it was Roy Vaden, and then Ed Milet, I think, shared a different version of it as well. But you're most qualified to serve the person you once were. Very simple, but it's one of those you go, hold on. Well, who was I? And so I operate from that philosophy now, coupled with when I teach branding and I teach social media and I teach prospecting and I teach recruiting and I teach how you grow your business. It's because and I also don't fabricate and lie like I think, unfortunately, our industry is known for theirs. Yeah, if you're the one that wants to know how to set up Encompass and to do all of these things within there, or Blend or some technology, hey, we have people that can teach you that. That's not me. I'm going to help you over here. And so owning what my greatness and uniqueness is and pouring that into others and realizing I am not all things to all people. I have tried it, lived it, burned it out, burned it to the ground. And so very, very different, Brian. And I'm excited for what's ahead, because here's what I know is what I've learned and what I've grown in my own life over the last 5 years. Where will I be in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of leader could I be? I'm still learning and growing.
Well, it's funny, and I was just saying this on a huddle prior to this. It's like, I don't even measure now in form of like time or years, or like, it's like in lifetimes, because it's like we reinvent ourselves and we change and we adapt and we pivot, and if we're open to that. I mean, it could be 6 months ago and that feels like a lifetime ago, with how much growth happens. And I love that quote that you just, and I, if you notice, I laughed a little bit, because I view myself as I try to be the coach I wish I had when I was in the leadership chair. And that really is one of my North Stars, probably one of my biggest North Stars when I'm working with clients, in any capacity, and it doesn't matter the position, if you're originating, if you're a branch manager, if you're the CEO of a company, right? I mean, it's, I say I can coach a doctor and not have to have gone to medical school. It's agnostic to industry. We're trying to help drive. Again, we're finding joy, purpose, and passion. What is your values? What are you trying to accomplish? What brings you joy in your business? If it brings you joy in your business, it's going to bring you joy in your life. And that atmosphere that you're talking about, and how whether you've shifted or not, or if that's just who you are, because now I didn't necessarily know younger Brian, through like what you're talking about, but I feel like, as we have known each other, I see you, like I see the core of who you are, someone who values your fitness and values, God, and values how to help others succeed. And that's one thing that, when I've seen you speak, and certainly when we've met and we've had good, great conversations and whatnot, it's really believing in the team dynamic, and we're stronger together than we are by ourselves. And, the other thing that I'm picking up on, which again, we have such alignment on, is if we're so only focused on the transaction and making money and driving and doing as many loans as possible. And again, we're all in here. This is not a nonprofit business. We know why we're doing this. But if that is our sole focus and we get lost in the goal and the result, like what we're talking about, then we lose sight of why it matters to our client, and how we build business for our referral partner, and how we connect with people versus trying to just push product. And burnout lives in the transaction, right? Energy lives in the relationship. And that's easy to say because we've all been caught up. I get caught up. I still get caught up in like grind, and sometimes we have to pull back, take that 30,000 foot view outside, back in, reset a little bit, breathe, get some oxygen. Okay, why am I doing this? Why does it matter? What am I doing? How do I connect with my clients? What is that joy, purpose, and passion? Where am I in my genius zone? Because let's not pretend, like you're saying earlier, my genius zone is not right at the Encompass level or the detail level of the system, but rather in I know exactly how to connect with a client. I know exactly how to help elevate and amplify and leverage them. And if I do that successfully, that makes me feel successful. And when that harmony is happening, then certainly across a team, we are harmonious, as a team. And now we're stronger together than we are by ourselves. And you're a leader of that. And I think, certainly, like, as you mentioned, and you have one of the strongest personal brands. And I see how much effort and what you have done in building your personal brand. And that's what I was saying earlier when you first came on. You and I met. We met at a conference real briefly. I think we were just talking in the kind of the hallway, like, oh, I've seen you on LinkedIn. I went, oh, that's Brian. Oh, I know who you are because I know you without us meeting, right? And so we met, we talked, we were talking for a little bit, like, okay, cool guy. And then I was on, I think, a Renee Rodriguez workshop of some sort, and you were his guest speaker. And you had said something that I really picked up on. You said, when you're meeting, as a social media, or as you're building your social presence, I like to say social presence more than social media. How do you take a conversation from online to offline? Right. And of course, about, prospecting and building business. So I said, oh shit, I'm going to help take this conversation from, online to offline. So I reached out to you, and then I think we did a live cast together and did some other content together. But I just say that out loud because it was something that I really connected with you on. And I think, like, it cut through the noise of all the stuff that's online, or the sort of, like, I'm going to say, false prescription of what we think we're supposed to do with our social presence. And before I maybe go down that rabbit hole, I want to get your thoughts on, building a brand. And I think so many people, they want to build a brand. They don't really know where to start, or they don't really want to do social media, but they kind of know they have to. So they kind of get caught up in doing maybe I'm going to say the old formula, or, but I want to get your thoughts on building a brand. And where do you start with someone? You recruit someone on board. They want to build a brand. They want to have more social presence. They don't really know what to do, and they don't really like it.
I think one is the connection point for all of us is we all started there. And so I share with them in the beginning of me filming at my kids' sporting events, posting just really horrible videos that weren't even edited. They're so bad. And just all the ideations of what I've learned for over 7 years, really more than that now, of learning how to build my brand. And I share all that pain with them, and then share the other side of it. So on the other side of that coin is a ton of people I've met that I would have never met. The introductions, the people in my network you see today, I can tell you it would have never happened had I not stepped out and been courageous and said, I'm just going to build my brand. Screw it. Figure it out along the way. And I share that with everybody so they know, like, hey, I'm you. I just might be a few chapters ahead of you in this. But what's cool about that is I can now provide insight, and I can fast track what took me years and mistakes I made. Do this, don't do that, and help them. And where you need to start, if there's any leaders listening to this, is just understand, like, why is someone wanting to do social? Is it because you need more business? Okay, cool. That's part of it. Do you want to get better at your presentation skills? Cool. That's another great one. Do you want to expand your network and get to meet people? Let people know what you do, what makes you unique. All those things are really cool. But there's this level that I tell them, at the foundational level, you need to think about. And it goes back to that same quote. And, Ed says is you're most qualified to serve the person you once were. I think Rory says it is you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So I want you to think about that as powerfully positioned because of your experiences. And one of the most asked questions I see is, what would you give your younger self advice on? What would you tell your younger self? And you now have an opportunity with social media to not just go one-to-one, one-to-many. And all of the Craigs out there 5, 10 years ago that are struggling with what you struggled with, that aren't even sure if they want to keep going. They're thinking about quitting. They're looking at that and going, man, there is no way, right? And there's also the ones that are going, man, this is really fun. What's next? How do I grow? How do I expand? All of those versions of you need you now to show up for them. So I think about that, the days that I don't want to post and the things that I don't want to do. And I'm like, I really don't want to do this. I save a folder too. And this is just, for me, but I keep all of the text messages, all of the emails. I got a really cool LinkedIn message today from someone and just said, hey, thank you. And it was about going before you're ready. And it was a post, weirdly enough, like 3 weeks ago, popped in their feed because that's how LinkedIn's working right now. And they said, man, I really needed to read that today. And I just wanted to tell you, thank you, because I need to make a big decision. And I'm just analysis paralysis right now. And that post gave me some inspiration to just go do it. And I'm like, guys, you can't make a larger impact going one-to-one. I just don't believe it's possible. The way this works is it's not one or the other. This is probably the other piece I would share with you is so many people are like, well, I'm going to go all in on social and I'm just not going to do this. No, I still call realtors. I still call builders. I still call LOs. Like we still do that.
Yeah.
But what it's allowed me to do is just like we met on Renee's, webinar that he was doing, it makes it so much more warm and so much more friendly. And I had a Zoom call before our call today. Never met them in person. Wife is in the mortgage business for a different company. Husband's a coach in the mortgage business. And without giving too many details, I'll just share with you. They reached out to me. We had some common connections.
Next week, by the way. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it was just one of those things. We've never met in person. So imagine that. And then we have this great conversation. I'm connecting them up with two people that need to be connected with them. They're connecting me up with someone. And I'm like, this is how the game is played, is connections, conversations. These are the things that create what you're looking for. And by avoiding all this, you're missing out on opportunities. And so that's really, when you look at it, there's a lot of other things I get into details and tactics with people to help them walk through it. But, I share that just from my heart and like what I have learned. And there's people in my life today that are only there because I've reached out on social. And that's everything, guys. By the way, my son and I are taking a trip to Miami to someone I've never met, but we both have kids that play and they're huge Inter Miami fans. Of course, we're huge Nashville fans. And we're going to go down there and meet them. And it's one of those relationships where you go, man, God opened this door. But had I never shown up on social and shared things outside of mortgage, because guess what? He doesn't care that I do mortgages. Yeah. We're connected by our kids in soccer. Yeah. So again, share who you are and the things that you do. And that's how it'll work. I could jam on this for a long time. The last piece of advice I'll give people if you're listening and you're really struggling with your personal brand is get around people that have already done what you want to do. There's a lot of fake gurus. There's a lot of people that are posturing. There's still the bot game. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. If you want the real raw and the truth of what's there and to stop comparing yourself to people in the wrong ways, just let me know. I'll connect you up with someone. I'll help you. I love doing that stuff because I went through it, got scammed by people, had people I thought were real and one thing and would tell me one thing and then they actually weren't even doing it. It's like all this stuff. To your point earlier, Craig, allow someone that's been there and a guide to help you cut through the noise. And on the other side of this, just like anything, dude, it's amazing. I can't imagine not having some type of brand online now because the doors that it opens are crazy. By the way, hey, dude, this is great. I get a $3 million referral yesterday. $3 million because of social media, because I'm connected to someone that's connected to them and they're moving into our hometown and they don't know anybody, but they know I'm in Franklin. Guys, I could go on and on. Get in the game, get off the sideline.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're just getting in the game. And again, if everyone listening to this, notice how Brian's not talking about, okay, say this hook and here's the formula, right? And 5 ways to become a millionaire in the next 30 days, and it's nothing to do with that. And that's the stuff that we have to demystify. And I think the wonderful thing about building a social presence today, maybe versus, even just a couple of years ago, is this full circle of authenticity that has come back into the game. And, there's an interesting paradox, I think, with, how much technology and now AI. And I just did a podcast with Katie Shive. You know Katie.
I love Katie.
If you don't, I'm going to connect with you guys. Yeah, okay. And one thing Katie was saying, which was so true, is we now can outsource so much of ourselves into AI and technology. We can outsource an avatar of ourselves, our voice, writes the content, all of that stuff. So in this age where AI is simplifying so much in one hand, right? Because people are like, oh, I can just prompt it and it'll just do everything for me and get my social media post out there. Wonderful. Now I've got a lot of social media out there. But is that a niche or is that noise? is that you and your consumer, your audience, they're not interacting with you. So it doesn't have to be polished. You don't have to have all the emojis jumping out of your, remember like all the Instagram videos, even just a year ago, like it was over edited and right. It really can just be as simple as just what message do you want to convey? Again, we can get clear on, what your message is, but the point is your authenticity is coming back to your humanity. Right. And this conversation certainly, it's not just about social media. It's also, how do we, and I'll say it earlier, because this is sort of the content I'm starting to deliver now, is how do we create a niche amongst the noise that's happening in our market? And social media certainly has a lot of noise. So don't outsource yourself. Keep your humanity, your humility, and your curiosity out in front. Be curious. And if we just do that, the other thing is I'll tell clients, like, you don't have to do the dance. You don't have to take pictures of your food. You don't have to do anything. That you just be yourself. What is important to be an authority on something? What is it important to you? Just convey that, because you're creating a wider audience and opportunity to then go deeper, with them. And I mean, it's like we're not chasing likes, but I tell you, every time I do a post, I'm always thinking to myself, oh my God, this is the most brilliant thing that has ever been said in the history of brilliant things. How has this not gone viral and, millions of people, right? And of course, it doesn't have to go viral, but I'm always proud of what I say, even if I do, make a mistake in there, it's just the human version. And so certainly that encouragement, and I agree with you, man. I mean, I did struggle. And you said something earlier about just courageous, and I think for a lot of people, that is really where it starts, is just kind of have the courage to put yourself out there. Right. And even, I mean, I put I'll close my eyes sometimes after I take do a little video and I hit post, like, screw it. I'm just going to hit post and let it go out there. Whatever. It's fine. But there is that's the humility part, right? That's the humanity part. And I love how you said, like, just sort of have the courage to just take that one step forward. And I think that translates so much into so much of this conversation and what, building systems in your life and your business, creating the atmosphere around you, building your brand that people can connect with. And by the way, when I talk about niche versus noise, people connect with people, not product. Your product is not your niche. It's the people you serve and who they are, who those personas are. When I talk about the ideal client personas, that becomes your niche. So let's get clear on who that is. And now, how do we solve problems for those personas?
Yeah.
And then you have an abundance of content. When I hear, I don't know what to say, I said, you don't have to. Just capture, don't create. Capture what those conversations you had throughout your day with a client, with a referral partner, with your wife, with your husband, whomever, a friend. Something happened in the day that, that was a pretty good little nugget. I'm going to talk about that. Capture, you don't have to create. And when we get clear on our ideal client personas, and then now, how do we solve problems for those personas? You have an abundance of content. It's going to connect with you in that genius zone of yours.
That's right.
It's going to connect with you in that purpose of why you do what you do and why you love doing what you do and how you help other people succeed in what they do because of your service and value and your give within that. And that, again, I'll just come back to, that's like being plugged into a wall full of abundant energy versus a battery that's just going to deplete you. Right. And so I see that, with your content, I see that certainly with a lot of other people's content, that when I follow and try to model myself around, I'm paying attention to guys like you, paying attention to how you're building your brand, not trying to repeat what you say, but that you're out there saying what you want to say, what matters to you, what's important to you. And I love how Richard, Milligan, brought that up, attractive leadership. Because really what we're creating is opportunity attraction is another way I frame that. When you put that out there and people can see what you care about, because people care about what you care about. And now we're attracting opportunity. Yeah, I love it, man.
It's better.
And it really does. And, going back to, it starts simplifying things.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever we are in our production, it starts simplifying why we're doing what we do. And then the result is all of a sudden we start attracting better referral partners. we started attracting better clients. Those referral partners and those clients then started attracting other people in their atmosphere. To your point earlier, now let's be connectors.
Yes.
Yeah. And that, I mean, I got a call yesterday, a friend of mine and their, his wife, who happens to be in the mortgage business, their company looks like they might be shutting their doors. So she got, the papers on that, yesterday. So I got the first phone call and said, you know what? I got you. I got you. Have already set her up with a couple conversations. Have already set and worked with her on like, what is it that you want to do? Right. Kind of went through that whole thing, got a couple things teed up. And in that conversation alignment, also have the tee up of, and if they can't help, they probably know someone who might be able to help, to your
That's
point.
right.
And so setting up that downstream. And so I'm hoping that she's going to find a solid foundation shortly after this incident. And that right there, that makes my day worth it. Like everything in that day, right? And so being able to provide that value.
Yeah, it's the
So
quality of
it's
your relationships, man. People underestimate this, but I saw this recently, and it was talking about the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your conversations and your relationships. And if I could give anybody just any encouragement, is so many of the people, not just on our team every day with mortgages across country, but friends of mine. That's how we keep up with each other. And if you do a good job of this, it allows people to go. Even today, I had a couple people text me, right? And they didn't comment on my post. I don't know if they liked it or not, but they texted me about Henry breaking the backstroke record yesterday. And they're like, dude, that's so awesome for Henry. Tell him congratulations. So you may not think people are watching. You may not think people are engaging. And so I don't look at the vanity metrics. I do look at the quality of my conversations and the quality of my relationships around me. And those for me are the scoreboard, because I know too many people that are chasing the likes and all the things that are there. And then I look and I'm like, they don't even enjoy their own life. And so if I can just give you anything like real and raw of this is, I know just too many people are chasing the side of social that is designed to pull you in, designed to hit the dopamine for you, designed to have you addicted to something and get you so distracted from who you are and what your mission is that you lose sight of all of it. And so the one thing I tell people is the thing I'm most proud of is not all the connections and all the stuff I've done on social. It's the people I've met and I've stayed true to me of, I don't even think I posted on Instagram yesterday. I probably put some stories or something. I'm not attached to that anymore. Just not attached to it, because I know the conversations I'm having and the people that are there and the things that I'm doing are driving where I want to be. And I'm okay with that. Right. And so, I've done the jam of, I got to post 2 times a day and I got to be on this platform and that platform and this, and got to have this many likes, got to have this many followers and all this stuff. And I have automated some stuff, I will say, on some of my like mini chat and Instagram and some things we found that actually work in the DMs. And so there's things that I'm going, you know what? Doesn't need Brian anymore. That's a task base. I'm going to automate it. And I'm going to spend my time over here with people. So all I have to tell you, dude, I'm learning the same stuff every day, but I'm having conversations with people, always learning. And I'm always trying to figure out, where does it fit into my life and who I am outside of what you see on social? Same Brian.
Yeah. Well, don't chase the algorithm, right? And don't let the algorithm pull you in, right? Instead, chase connection, chase conversation, and again, that is a signal amongst the noise. And, and that's exactly it, because I think where a lot of people, they fight getting online. And look, it's a love-hate relationship, with social media, because that whole algorithm and where it is pulling you in and whatnot, that is not the design of what we want, right? And to your point, it is creating those connections, and that opportunity for thought leadership too is something that I value strongly. And when I do get a chance to say something, and for me, it's when I get that one responsive thank you, like to your point, when someone DM'd you and, hey, I really need to read this. My God, it's like the heavens opened up and I was able to just like someone that mattered to someone, and that matters to me. And so that's it. Yeah. And that's what makes this stuff fun. And let's just have some fun with what we do.
That's right.
I love it. All right. Last question, buddy. Someone's listening to this audience right now and they're like, I love this. I don't want them to forget this conversation. What's that one word that you want them to remember from this conversation? What's your one word? What's that signal you want them?
I'm gonna go with clarity. And here's why. Is in my own life, what I've discovered over the past couple of years, when I got really, really clear, and I was sharing this the other day, of clarity over speed. And then someone came back and they said, well, the two together, and then you've got this and that. And just for me, like, I've gone really fast in my life. I've gone really hard, and I've done the crazy hours and the travel and the things. When I've gotten really clear about my avatar of people I want to work with, people I want to partner with, people on our team, clear on who do I want to be as a dad, as a leader, all those things, then my actions can follow. My standards can be set around where I'm going and who that is. And that ability to come back to center and get clear is where I think most people are just running a race and they don't actually know where they're going, and they don't know where they're going to end up. And that is why they're stuck. And if I could give you that advice today, it would be to just get crystal clear, to where if you're explaining it to a fifth grader, like my 10-year-old, could they understand what you do and why you do what you do?
Right.
Seriously.
Clarity is the fire extinguisher to stress. Clarity is the beginning of what I call your great unstucking. And I love it, man. And it's such a through line into this conversation and where to go. And I hope everybody listening, Brian, where can everybody find you? How can they connect with you?
Man, I'm pushing people to LinkedIn now, just because my newsletter every week is free, and we've got our 10,000 subscribers now, which has been awesome. So definitely hit me up there. And then Instagram, I put some different content on Instagram. So that's just the before my name, because somebody had mine, the Brian Covey on Instagram. Hit me up there. I spend a lot of time, a lot of really good stuff on the podcast and videos on Instagram. If you're more into the thought leadership and some of that piece with mortgage, that's where I drop all that on LinkedIn.
I love it. And everybody listening, if you're looking to align yourself with an absolutely wonderful leader, someone who's building an atmosphere to help build you up, to help you build your system, to help you build your brand, to help you build you personally. If you're in the mortgage business, or even if you're just outside the mortgage business, connect with Brian, align with Brian, follow Brian. And I think that you're going to gain not just clarity, but also action, effort, and so much more. So, buddy, I appreciate you joining the conversation. I look forward to many, many more.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Go USA. All right, everyone, we'll talk shift soon. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Talking Shift. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next episode.